Um, Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our marketing and public speaking workshop. For those of you in Pacific time, it might be pretty early, so thank you for coming. My name is Nathan. I'm a rising senior at Interlake High School, and today I'm being joined by Nikita. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Nikita, and I'm a rising junior at Interlake High School.
Okay, so for our agenda today, we're going to start off by giving an introduction to marketing. And after that, we'll talk about the 4 C's of marketing, which is pretty useful when you think of what you want to include in your presentation, especially for today's hackathon. So if you're unsure of what to include in your presentation and what your presentation should look like, we're going to be talking about a much shorter version of a presentation called a sales pitch, which is basically a 1-minute speech where you're trying to convince people to use your product. So we'll be going over the 4 C's, which are things that you want to include during your presentation. Then we're going to give you an example project for a different theme and have you try giving a sales pitch. And then at the end, we're going to talk about Toastmasters, which is another opportunity to improve your public speaking skills. Okay, so starting off, what is marketing and why is marketing important? So marketing is um, marketing is basically when you create something and you're exchanging offerings for your product. So you're trying to increase awareness and let people know about your product so that people are more likely to buy it. You're basically increasing people's interest in your company's product or service, since beforehand assume that they know virtually nothing about your product. It's through this marketing process that you're able to get more people to become interested and actually buy them. And for your presentation today, it's also going to let your judges know more things about your product. And the more they know about your product, the more likely you'll score higher. Okay, so now moving on to the 4 C's of marketing. First, we have clarity. Second is credibility. Third is consistency. And 4 is competitiveness. So we'll go over the 4 of these. Okay, starting with clarity, the definition is just the quality of being coherent and intelligible. So how do you know when you are being clear? You can ask these questions to yourself and see if you are able to answer them. 1, is it clear what problem you are solving? 2, is it clear what your solution is and how it functions? 3, is it clear how your solution solves the problem? So here we have an example, which is you should buy our security system since it makes your house very secure and is cheap. Does somebody either unmute their mics, or I guess you can send it in the chat, want to say what they think about this example and if they think it is clear or not? Yep. So Grace says that it isn't clear what the problem is, and how the solution functions. So yep, this is not the best example since it just says that it is a security system. It doesn't say what it's trying to help you do. It doesn't show you anything else. So yeah, thank you, Grace. In your clarity section of any presentation, mostly 3 things should be covered. 1, here's what I got. 2, here's how it'll do it for you. And then 3, here's what I want to do next. So one of the important things about clarity is you do want to mention what the future steps are going to be. So even if your product currently doesn't have something, you can always mention what the future steps are so that either the judges or whoever wants to buy your product has an idea of what they'll be getting themselves into in the future. So this part is especially applicable for your hackathon presentation. If, let's say, you weren't able to finish a part of your project, it's best to be clear and tell the judges, oh, because of the time limit of the hackathon, we weren't able to do X, Y, and Z. But if we had more time, we would have worked on A, B, C, something like that. So we revised this example a bit. So an alternative example, our cheap security system allows you to view different areas of your house in the comfort of your phone. Buy it now at secureyourhouse.com. So I just made that link up. I don't know if it actually works, but this one, it provides a little bit more clarity. So one, how does it make your house more secure? It allows you to view the different areas of your house. And it also mentions in the comfort of your phone. So it provides some more information about how do you view it? Oh, there's an app on your phone. I guess the one thing that it could improve on even more is it could say something like, to prevent robberies or to prevent break-ins, our cheap security system allows you to view the different areas, and then it'll cover all of the things such as what the problem is, how it solves it, and what you can do next, which is buying it at the website. Okay, so next we have credibility, which is the quality of being trusted and believed in. So how do you know when you are being credible? Remember these things. One, who is advocating for your product? Is it just you, someone with very little credibility, or maybe someone with a title, which has a bit more credibility? So is that party credible? Are there statistics or facts that make the party seem knowledgeable? And does the party look like they know what they're talking about? So one of the main things about credibility is confidence. It's best to have as much confidence as you can, since if you're unsure about what you're presenting about, it will also make the person listening, the audience, unsure if they should believe you and everything you're saying. Additionally, when you think of who's advocating for your product, you as a high schooler, middle schooler student might not be the most trustworthy person when it comes to the judges. Now, that doesn't mean you should like invite or reach out to some random person who is very credible, but what that means is have those statistics or facts that can help back your project up. For example, if you're creating like an app, you might want to think about getting some statistics about how apps are like statistically proven to be more effective than something else. Those things will make your party seem more knowledgeable and also build up the trust when you present with your present to the judges. Okay, so an example is we have used this type or brand of toothpaste and our teeth have never fallen out. So as you can see, this is a pretty bad example of trying to be a credible workspace. So an alternate example, which you might have heard pretty commonly, is 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this brand of toothpaste as it cleans, whitens, and protects your teeth, something like that. So the 9 out of 10 dentists, 90% is pretty high. So it establishes some credibility, especially the word dentists who have been specifically trained to help clean your teeth and such. It adds credibility to the brand of toothpaste. And at the end, there's also some clarity as it tells you the specific things your toothpaste can do, which is clean, whiten, and protect your teeth. I guess if you want it to be really specific, you can add on to this credibility portion and talk about the chemicals within the toothpaste, which would definitely help make it seem more credible. But also you have to remember who are you advocating this to? Since if your audience knows nothing about those chemicals and how they work, it might not be the best idea to go on a full rant about how they work. Your audience might get bored really quickly. So remember who your audience is and try to keep it tailored towards them. So the third C is consistency, which is the quality or fact of having parts that agree with each other. So how do you know when you're being consistent? You can ask the questions, are the claims about the product consistent? Is the uniqueness and innovative aspect of the solution constantly highlighted? And is all information presented relevant to the topic at hand? So this first example is our security company offers several meal options, which will be delivered to you. So can anybody think of, and again, they can unmute their mics or send it in the chat, why this might not be the best example of being consistent, either within like the product itself, the company, something like that. Feel free to leave it in the chat. Yeah, so like Jeffrey says, it's a security company, not DoorDash. So what the security company trying to like deliver meals in the first place is very inconsistent with the goal of their company, and it honestly takes away from the clarity and also consistency of their product. So if you are trying to add so many things into your project or product that it confuses the audience, it's not a good look for your product. Especially in this example, you're probably wondering, why is a security company trying to be like DoorDash, trying to be like Uber? You want to make sure that your product is very consistent. So here's an alternate example from prospecting to proposals. Record and send videos that add a personal touch at all stages of the sales cycle. With Vidyard, you can record and send videos in just a few clicks. So this one, it still makes sure everything is tied together to stuff about proposals and recording videos. And you can even see the name of the company, Vidyard, has vid in it, which already gives a hint that the product and company is about videos. So this is a nice example where everything is being consistent and it's being clear about what the product can do. So record and send videos in just a few clicks. Okay, the last one is competitiveness, and it's the quality of being as good as or even better than others in comparable or comparable nature. So how do you know your product is competitive? So you want to ask, how is the solution or product competitive in the market? What is unique about the event? And why should people use the product markets instead of some other product of the like? This is especially important if you're trying to create a product that already exists in the market field. For example, something like class policy already exists and you want to create a new form of class policy, you want to think about what makes your product above and much better than the existing product. So if you have just a rip off of class policy, people aren't likely going to want it, and school systems are likely to not want to use your rip-off version of class policy, especially since that other product has already been in the market for much longer and has a lot more credibility due to being used multiple times before. So if your product isn't very competitive, it can also detract from the other C's, such as credibility. So here we have an example. While some restaurants might be more efficient than us, we guarantee quick delivery. Does anybody want to, in the chat, I guess, since nobody's really unmuting, want to mention why having this as an example detract from the restaurant's competitiveness and also just detract from the restaurant as a whole? Yep. So like Jeffrey says, it straight up states their weakness, especially compared to other companies. So by saying some restaurants might be more efficient than us, you're basically telling the audience and whoever might be a potential future customer, we're not the best at what we do. And that's not a great way to convince people to buy from this restaurant. So in order to make sure you are competitive, you want to give some more information and ideally don't even mention the weaknesses. So here's an alternate example. We give buyers better guidance than traditional analyst firms, which can take up to 2 years to update and publish technology research. So it directly compares the analyst firm to other analyst firms and points out the other analyst firm's weaknesses, which is it takes up to 2 years, showing that it takes a long time. However, this analyst firm can give buyers better guidance and take a lot less time to update and publish technology research, which is why you should invest in this analyst firm instead and use this analyst firm's services. Okay, so now moving on to product example. So the theme is natural disaster. And the issue is after natural disasters, such as storms and pandemics, some people may need extra assistance in gathering resources such as groceries. So the solution created is a website that can help connect people who are willing to help and those who need help. So contact information, the specific location, and the type of help needed can be provided through the website for both sides. So our task for you is to create a 1 minute or less sales pitch for the given solution and make sure you incorporate the 4 Cs. So I'm going to screen share the website so you can take a look at what it'll look like. So you have a better idea of what you would be getting into. Okay. So as you can see on the screen, there's a bunch of things that this website will take. First, your location. It will either manually take your location, which means you enter the coordinates or you enter an address, or it'll just track your location and put you on this map down below. For the name, you can just put your name. Phone number is optional, but it allows your helpers to help you out. How many people you need and any message for others. This one is specific for the people who need help. So you can add a message such as, I need help getting groceries. And for the people you need, you can mention like, oh, I just need one person to help me get groceries. Or if it's something much longer, or a much larger task, you can increase the number of people you need to like 5 or 6. But as you start filling these things in, once you submit it, you can see a marker appear where you need help. This is for the people who need help. You can also switch it to I can help. So for I can help, you just put in your name, you can put in your location so that you can see the people who are closest to you, which basically makes sure you don't end up having to help someone across the world. Same things, you can put in your phone number, but instead of talking about how many people you need help from, you can just add a message. For example, I can help on weekdays after 6 p.m. or I can help on weekends only. Some messages so that the other people know what you need. So here it's going to put a marker at this location so you know where you are and you know where the people who need help are. So this person over here in the water basically has the message, I am drowning, I need 2 people to help me out. And the other person can connect each other. So as you can see, a line has been drawn. A line has been drawn between these 2 markers, basically showing that they have been connected. And down here, it shows the name of the people who are being helped, the distance between each other, and the message. So here's an example of the website, so you have a better idea of how to help market it. So I'm going to switch it back to the presentation and the 4 Cs. Okay, so here are the 4 Cs. We're going to give you around 5 minutes to just try to come up with your own sales pitch. And then if you feel comfortable, you can unmute your microphone and share your sales pitch. Alternatively, if you want to write it up, you can also send it in the chat or private message me, and then I can read it out for everyone. Just so you get some practice coming up with sales pitches and know what you should include in your presentation today. So I'm gonna send the 4 Cs in the chat. And then I'm going to switch the screen back to the product.
Okay.
Okay, so we have some questions in the chat. So one of them is, are we supposed to convince the judges to buy our stuff? So partially. The judges aren't really thinking of it in like a business or like investor point of view. I guess my initial thoughts are like Shark Tank. They're not like the angel investors or um whatever on Shark Tank who are willing to like fund your stuff. They're more of like an audience, people who might be potential customers of the product. So sort of, yes, you do want to convince them to buy it, but the judges are also assessing stuff that happens in the background. So maybe part of your presentation, you would want to include why the product is important, but you also want to include some stuff like how your team was able to communicate, how your team brainstormed the ideas to come to that problem, how they came up to the thing, how you brainstormed your solution, what everybody on the team was able to do. And those things are important to focus on as well, since you don't want to think of the judges just as like buyers in the audience. Also in the judging rubric, there are multiple components that are beyond just the product. For example, how well you collaborated with your teammates, stuff like that. So you do want to make sure you include all of that in your presentation. And then, okay, so let me just scroll through the chat for a second. But yeah, I guess kind of if you do know Shark Tank, you can kind of think of it similar to that, except you do want to include more information about how your team operates, stuff like that. And then I'm not if your teammates are offline, it is pretty early. I know I usually like sleep into noon if I get the chance. But if they still don't respond, you can always reach out to the organizers on Discord and we can provide some alternative contact information. Okay, so there is okay, so we have a quick sales pitch in the chat. It's different from this product that we have on the screen. So I'm just going to read it out to you all. Okay, so we have School 2.0 is a website that makes learning fun. Almost 50% of students feel like they are not engaged in class, which is why School 2.0 adds games after lessons. Each question you get correct, you get a coin, and there is a shop so you can use the coins to buy characters. We also made it so that if you get less than a 60%, you get negative 10 coins to prevent spam clicking, to prevent spam clicking. Okay, so yeah, this is a good sales pitch. You cover the clarity since you talk about what this School 2.0 is. You also cover competitiveness as you're telling why it's better than the current school. Credibility, you also have some statistics in there. So 50% of students feel like they're not engaged. So that's really good for credibility. And then the last one is consistency, which has also been really good since throughout the entire sales pitch, you don't really go off topic. Everything is focused on what the product is. Nikita, do you want to add anything to that sales pitch? Any feedback?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so this would be something that you can this is a good portion of the presentation that you would likely be giving to the judges later today, this afternoon. Oh, okay. So we have a question, which is how long should the presentation be? Your presentation should be around 6 to 8 minutes, and the Q&A session is going to be 3 to 5 minutes. The longer you spend on your presentation, the shorter your Q&A gets. You don't want your presentation to be too long that the judges can't ask questions, but you also don't want your presentation to be too short and give the judges a bunch of time for the Q&A, since if they don't know enough about your project, they won't be able to ask enough questions. So you want kind of a balance between that. So the presentation plus Q&A should be 11 minutes, and then we have 4 minutes to kind of transition between the teams. And if you are late, you're not going to get time deducted from the 4-minute transition period. You're going to get time deducted from the 11 minutes. So if you cannot do your presentation time, please let the organizers know as soon as possible. Okay, so I'm going to give a sales pitch for the product that we have on the screen. So after natural disasters, many communities struggle to recover from the damage. To help those who require extra assistance, we have created a website, eHelpers, allowing people to share their contact information and location. When signing up, you may choose if you want to help or if you need help. A map will show a list of everyone nearby who requires assistance, and upon clicking the marker, you can assess the additional information and choose if you want to help them. This is a unique idea in the market which has not been done before, with the potential to help thousands of lives. In the future, we plan on connecting with other companies such as Amazon or Uber, allowing us to expand our services and provide packages and food resources to those in need. So this sales pitch, you might think, oh, the ending about connecting with Uber and Amazon, that was seemingly suspicious or I can't talk, I'm so sorry, suspiciously similar to the bad example in consistency. The difference is the other one is a security company, which makes no sense to do delivery, whereas this one is providing resources and providing help. And food is one of the basic human requirements, I guess, to function. So it does fall under helping others. So it is a good idea to pair with these companies. So that's just an example of a sales pitch. If anyone has a sales pitch that they want to share out, you can send it in the chat or you can give it yourself. For now, we're going to move on to the second half of our presentation, which is public speaking. And then at any point, if we get any sales pitches, we can announce or we can give them throughout.
Cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about public speaking and a way that you can participate in public speaking and get better at speaking in front of an audience. So let me introduce to you Toastmasters, which is a public speaking club where you can practice giving speeches, practice giving impromptu speeches, which means speaking on the spot, improving your communication skills, becoming a strong leader. And you can join Toastmasters Club as a guest. Ethan, could you please switch the slide? Thank you. Okay, so here are the 3 parts of a Toastmasters meeting. They're generally split up into a section for speeches. So speeches are different projects that have objectives that are specific to the speech that you are giving, and they vary in time length from up to 3 to 10 minutes, but normally they are around 5 to 7 minutes long. And speeches are prepared beforehand, so you get a chance to practice them before you actually give them at the club meeting. The second part of a Toastmasters meeting is a fun speaking game called Table Topics, and these are impromptu speeches. So whereas the previous section was a prepared speech where you could practice beforehand, for Table Topics, you don't know what you're going to be speaking about until you're up there on, in virtual, you can't be on a stage, but up there on the stage giving your speech. So Table Topics are a 1 to 2 minute speech about an open-ended question. And then the third and final part of the Toastmasters meeting are evaluations. So evaluations are a 2 to 3 minute reflection on a speech where you give the speaker feedback on what they did really well and what they maybe could work on next time. So learning about what you did well and what you might work on is really important so that you can improve and become a better public speaker. So evaluations are a really important part of a Toastmaster meeting. So these are the 3 main parts of the meeting. Nathan, next slide. Yeah. All right. So how can you participate in the Toastmasters meetings? So there are a bunch of roles that club members can take up on every single meeting, and you can switch. You can change and pick and choose whichever role you want to participate in any given meeting. So first we'll talk about the 3 biggest roles that you can take on. So the first one is the Toastmaster. And like the name suggests, they kind of manage the meeting as a whole. They're the most important person to keep the meeting running in the Toastmasters Club. So what that means is they start with the introduction speech, like welcoming everybody. Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming. And they also keep the meeting running. So as you're switching between different sections from speeches to table topics, the Toastmaster is there to make those transitions. So basically, you're just managing the meeting, making sure everything kind of runs smoothly. And this really helps with your organizational skills and your communication skills. The next big role is the Inquisitor. And the Inquisitor basically runs the second part of the Toastmasters meeting, which are the table topics questions or the impromptu speeches. So the inquisitor needs to come up with the open-ended table topics questions that they can ask to the members during the table topics portion of the meeting. So that means that while the meeting is running, they come up with these open-ended questions, and during the table topic sessions, they call on people to come up and give their speeches. And then lastly, the head coach, who really runs the third part of the Toastmasters meeting, which is the evaluations. So they're the ones who call up the evaluators, and then after everybody has given their report, it's their job to kind of summarize the entire meeting, point out what went well, what they could work on next time in regards to the evaluators, the role holders, which I'll get to later, and the entire meeting. Next, we'll talk a little bit about the speakers and the evaluators, which I already talked about in the previous slide, but I'll just say it again. So you can also be a speaker, which is obviously one of the most important parts of Toastmasters. So you get to pick a speech from your manual, depending on what you want to focus on or what type of speech you'd like to give. You can pick one that is specific to your interests, and you can sign up for that speech, practice, and then present it. And you can also sign up to be an evaluator. So the evaluator's job is to focus really hard and listen to one speaker, and then at the end of the meeting, provide feedback to that speaker, what they did well, what they could work on, whether or not they met the objectives from the speaker's manual. And then there's also 3 minor roles that are also pretty important to keeping the meeting running smoothly, and also to learn more information about the meeting's tendencies. So first off is the timer. So as the name suggests, the timer's job is to time all the speeches and make sure everybody is meeting their required time limit, and they give their report at the end of the meeting. Next is the grammarian. So their job is to keep track of misuses of the English language. So if somebody uses a word that doesn't mean what they think it means, or have like a sentence that's incomplete, they keep track of that and point it out at the end of the meeting. And they also keep track of interesting words or phrases. And then finally, they come up with what's called the word of the day, which is essentially a word that has some correlation with the meeting theme. And it's the Toastmasters members' job to use that word when they're talking. And then finally, the Wizard of Oz, and they keep track of filler words like and like, you know, so, and repeated words, and they give a report at the end of the meeting. So the way that you can participate is you can choose one of these roles and do your job throughout your throughout the meeting, so that everybody kind of benefits from you doing your job and learning all this information and giving your report at the end. And basically, you all just help each other learn and grow as public speakers, leaders, and just individuals in the community. Nathan, next slide, please. All right, so we are going to do a fun activity. So I said before, table topics is the second part of the Toastmasters meeting. It's the impromptu speeches, which means you get to know the question right as you're coming up and talking about it. So some examples of the questions include, Nathan, if you want to click next. What is the difference between living and existing? Is stealing to feed a starving child wrong? What do you want most? Is there such thing as perfect? Where would you like to go most and why? So you notice that all of these are really open-ended questions, and there are really no right or wrong answers. So the point of table topics is just to get you comfortable with talking on the spot. You can obviously have some time to prepare beforehand before you start talking, but when you get called up, that is going to be your first exposure to the question. Yeah, so there's no right or wrong answer. It's just trying to get you to talk on the spot, because most times in life you won't get a chance to prepare what you want to say, especially for things like elevator pitches that kind of happen on the spot when you're not really prepared for it. And so it's a really important skill to be able to talk about something that's important to you, or talk about a question that's asked of you on the spot for at least a short period of time, like 1 to 2 minutes. Like nobody's asking anything like huge, like 30-minute presentations without any preparation. But speaking on the spot is a really important skill to have in your professional career. So that's why table topics is super important. And we're gonna offer it up to you guys to try some table topics. But before that, Nathan and I are just gonna give a little example. So Nathan, if you wanna ask me a table topics question, and I can give my answer.
Okay, I guess my table topics question for you is, would you rather explore the sea or would you rather explore space? Oh, sorry, real quick. Also, could we keep the spamming in the chat to a minimum, or I'm going to disable the chat? Yeah, it would be great if you could. Thank you.
All right, so the question that I got asked is, would you rather explore the sea or explore space? And this is a pretty hard question, because both the sea and space are vast areas that we haven't really known much about and haven't explored much. There's still a lot to discover. And for me, it's pretty difficult to pick one or the other. But if I had to make a choice, I would need to go with space. If you know me, I'm a pretty avid space space enjoyer. I'm pretty passionate about space, and I just think the cosmos is so huge and filled with such incredible phenomena that we don't know about. It's just kind of second nature for me to pick space to explore. I think for me, it would be one of the greatest experiences in the world to explore phenomena in space, whether that's studying the moon, Mars, our solar system, galaxies, black holes, or anything. The phenomena you can see in space really has no parallel here on Earth. And for me, I just think that's super interesting to learn about something that we can't really recreate here on Earth. Like at the bottom of the ocean, I think there's probably meant to be a lot of different creatures, animals, different species that we haven't yet discovered yet. And for me, that doesn't have as big of a pull as learning about supernovae or black holes, galaxy formation, things like that. So I do believe that it comes down to personal preference, whether you choose to stay here on Earth, learn about the oceans, or go beyond the sky and learn about space. And for me, I'm just more interested in space than the ocean, because for me, space is a field that we haven't explored as much as we have the ocean. And there's so many great things that we cannot recreate or replicate here on Earth. And so that is why I would rather pick space than over the ocean. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Nikita, for your sample table topics.
Yeah, of course. So if you are perhaps interested in joining Toastmasters, you can join one of the Gavel clubs in the Washington area. So if you're near Bellevue, you can join Rising Speakers Gavel Club, which is the club that Nathan and I are part of. You can visit risingspeakersgavelclub.wordpress.com, because we're cheap and can't afford an actual URL for more information. If you're not in that area, there's also other Gavel clubs, the Bothell Gavel Club of Future Leaders, Speak a Boom, which I believe is a mostly virtual club, and then Voice Masters Gavel Club, which is based in Redmond. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. We have contact information for all of these clubs. And yeah, just if you're interested in public speaking, I would highly recommend you join these Gavel clubs. They really transformed me. I can't speak for Nathan or anybody else, but for me, before I joined Toastmasters, I was pretty socially awkward and shy, and I didn't want to go up or talk to anybody, even like store employees. But after Rising Speakers Gavel Club, I'm still nervous to talk to store employees, but I'm a more confident speaker. And it's not just about speaking in front of a huge audience of like 100 people or anything like that. Toastmasters just makes day-to-day conversations a lot easier and a lot smoother for you to really shine, let people know what you're about, and you don't need to worry about being awkward or anything like that. Not the store employees, so true. But yeah, if you're interested in public speaking, Gavel clubs, Toastmaster clubs are a great way for you to learn about them in a fun, non-pressure environment. So yeah, if you're interested, please check them out. I know Nathan, I think, dropped like the Toastmasters website link in the chat. So yep.
Yeah, kind of adding on to Nikita, it also has like vastly transformed me as well. And one of the things you kind of learn in Toastmasters that you might still be scared when talking to people, but you'll kind of learn to cover up your fear. So that also, going back to the 4 C's, it can help with your credibility. You can be scared. Nobody's like, well, there might be people who aren't scared, but you kind of find a way to overcome. If you have like stage fright or anything, you can find a way to overcome that through practice. And when you get like really close to your Toastmasters community, you will be able to comfortably speak with other people, and you can cover that fear. It's normal to feel fear, especially with public speaking, but you can help establish stuff like credibility by masking over the fear. It can, even if you're really scared, it almost seems like you're not scared at all. Another thing, Toastmasters is international, so it's not like something that's just in Washington. I think the link that I sent in chat should be able to help you find Toastmasters near you. You can also just do a Google search of Toastmasters near me. And if there isn't a Toastmasters near you, you can always create one of your own. It can help you practice your leadership skills, organization skills, and you can also just get a bunch of people who are interested to form this club. So that's basically all of the content that we want to go over today. If you're interested, you can always stay behind and try answering a few of these table topics questions. You can either answer one of these on the screen, or we can share some other table topics questions for you. But yeah, if you have any questions, you can always email me or Nikita. I can add my email in the chat.
I'll drop mine in chat too.
Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. You can also speak up now, type it in the chat, stuff like that. If you want to stay behind for some table topics, then you can do raise hand feature, let us know in the chat, something like that. But that's all of the content for our presentation, and I'm going to stop the recording.